Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. It's a lovely hot day. A little bit of housekeeping. Darryl is working from home in a very hot office and his laptops are overheating. And if he could reach out and slap me because I'm sitting in the air-conditioned room with a cup of tea. So it's... So everybody, thank you very much for taking the time out, and it's wonderful to have you this evening. So we've got quite a few people coming in. I'm just going to plow on through. We have the meeting chat open. If you have any questions, throw questions as you think of them. Ashok is on the chat as well, so he will actually be answering your questions. If they're quite pertinent questions and he thinks that it'll be good for everyone to know about, he'll actually wait until the end, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end, and then we'll, especially if it's something which might involve both myself and Darryl. So introducing Darryl, thank you very much for joining us from Aligned.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil.
It's brilliant. Known Darryl for a couple of years now, always bumping into him at exhibitions and chatting about the new tech, and it was when Darryl showed me the new Lumina system. And one thing we have in common, we're both tech heads. When we see new technologies coming out, which are really exciting, it's we get very nerdish about it. So when we were talking about it, we said, you know what, we've got to get this information out there as quickly as we can. So Darryl, do you want to introduce yourself and your position?
Yeah, absolutely. So just a quick one. I'm Darryl here from Align Technology iTero. I'm the business development specialist here for our lab channel. My background is I'm a dental technician, and as Neil was saying, a bit of a tech head. So I enjoyed my technology and a passion for digital dentistry as well. Now, with dentures, it's one that I'm really passionate about in digitizing, and seeing what the guys are doing over at CosTech, it was just a natural fit that we did something like this to really showcase that digital workflow. So I'm really excited to be here tonight and to be able to present this workflow to you guys. Any questions, as we said before, please fire them in. We want to keep this as active and engaged as possible. But also, as I say, this will be recorded, so there is that chance to sort of recap or touch back. Now, we will be covering, once again, the technology that allows this to happen, but also makes the magic happen. But what we're doing is we're actually going through a few cases tonight as well to actually showcase this live with you. So I'll hand back over to Neil after that short introduction, and I'll let you fire it up.
Fantastic. Okay. First hurdle, does the deck load? How are we looking, Darryl?
We are good, and I can see you and hear you. So that's awesome. 3 checks.
Great. Green lights on the board. I like that. So first of all, like Darryl was saying, guys, this is showing the full workflow, not just about how we're taking dentures from a two-appointment system and workflow and protocol, but also pairing it up with the type of technology. The reason why this iTero Lumina system is so good is because of the, I don't want to steal your thunder, Darryl, but the technology behind it is absolutely amazing. So tonight it's going to be split into 2 halves. First of all, it's going to be a little bit from CosTech and what we're doing and how the digital workflow works once we have the scan from the practice, and then we'll pass over to Darryl, who's actually going to show you the full workflow for the different types of dentures. So people who aren't using CosTech, welcome. It's very nice to meet you. My name's Neil, Managing Director, and I'll tell you a little bit about CosTech. I'm going to introduce how the 2-step workflow actually works. A little bit of an introduction into Digi-Dentures and the workflow practice kit. This is something that we developed in-house purely for the dental team to actually get hands-on with your scanner. And then we'll pass over to Darryl, who will demonstrate and showcase the Lumina. So a little bit of quick history on CosTech. I won't go over this too much, but we were established in 1977. We're a family-owned and run dental laboratory. My father graduated as a technician in 76, set up the lab in 77. My mum graduated as a dentist in 78, only retired from the chair during lockdown. So we're still very much a family-run company. We've been digital since 2002 when we got our first milling machine. It was Serican Lab 2. It was one of the first ones in the country. And just the scanning was 45 minutes, but it was an amazing bit of kit. As a laboratory, we're full service. So by full service, we do crown and bridge, prosthetics. Everything is predominantly digitally run, laminates and implants, as well as aligners. We're compliancy driven. This is a big thing that we did. So when I finished university as a programmer, compliancy was a massive drive between it. And this is what I did when we came into lab, is to actually start introducing this into our lab workflows. With that, we're able to get our DAMAS accreditation with the help of Ashok, who's also in the chat. And since 2010, we're audited annually, and also we publish all of our information. So if you want to see what a remake is, sign up for our emails, and we actually publish all of our reports on there. We're based in Kent, but we operate all around the UK. So it doesn't matter where you are, especially now that everything's digital. We now offer on a digital service a 5 working day turnaround. So no matter where you are in the country, 5 days. And again, servicing all of the UK. So when we first started down the digital route, we knew this was the way that technology was going to be going. And as we saw that the digital workflow for crown and bridge was really running ahead, in the back of our minds, dentures was always the thing that said, oh, this will be the holy grail of digital. It would be absolutely amazing that if we could change all of the prosthetics work to just scan and fit. But it's always that bite stage in between, which was the problem. So we're developing it and we're trying to put it into a workflow which was easy to promote, to train and deliver. So this is the solution that we have, and we managed to work it. We've been developing this for over 2 years now, and now we're nearly hitting the flip point where more dentures are being done via intraoral scanner than impressions. Most common question, can you do partials and fulls? Yes, this workflow shows you how to do both of those. What types of dentures can you have? Traditional dentures, as you know and as you love, as well as the new Digi-Dentures, which are the digitally fabricated dentures, which I'll show you now. So with a Digi-Denture, once we have the scan, we can use the bite using the workflow, which we'll be demonstrating. Then we can actually design the entire denture using our CAD/CAM system. We mill our teeth, so we don't use stock teeth. So every single tooth is completely unique. Once we have the full design, we can actually mimic the patient's natural dentition. We use all the classic Vita shades, so all the options are there. For the resin, we're using the Dreef material. We found this material to be absolutely amazing. And one reason why I like it is that it actually goes through a tempering process after it's been printed, which actually adds a lot of strength to the resin. We bond the milled teeth and the gingiva together. We're using LikeYour resin. So this is the other question a lot of people say, oh, is it good for monomer allergies? It is, apart from the LikeYour resin actually contains monomer, so no, it's not. So it still hasn't solved that problem. We offer 3 levels of quality to suit your patients. So if it's doing economy, premium and premium plus. So people ask, well, can I do Digi-Dentures on the NHS? Yes, the economy range is actually priced at the price point that you can do it. And this is what we developed in-house, the Digi-Denture Scanning Practice Kit. One of the biggest things is we had to work out a way to train up all of the team, to get everyone involved, because it's not just the dentist that scans now. The nurses can actually do the pre-op scans and do the full scanning process. However, one thing we realized is that it can be quite technique sensitive. Actually, Darryl, I will say it's not as technique sensitive with the Lumina, which I'll let you jump in on that later. But the scanning pathways which Darryl will touch on later on, is very important because it's making sure that you collect as much of the information as you need. The main purpose of the kit was to actually reduce down the training time, because one of the worst things is when you're sitting there with a patient and you're trying to, and you know you've got a waiting room of patients backing up, you don't want to be sitting there learning on the job. This way you can actually practice all of the different types of dentures, be it partials all the way to fulls to edentulous. So quickly, in the kit is made up of 4 workflows. Workflow 1 is basically when you have a patient who's got a stable bite, i.e. it's got 3 good points of contact and they can replicate the bite repeatedly. Workflow 2 is if they've got a unstable bite, i.e. they've literally only got 1 or 2 points of contact and the bite can't be replicated, but then they also have a reference denture. Majority of people who have an unstable bite actually already have a denture, so we show on the workflow how to utilize that to get an accurate bite. The full arch flow and workflow 3 is basically using the full denture that they already have as a reference denture and then using that. Workflow 4 is the only workflow which actually changes from a 2-step appointment to a 3-step. What happens is that if someone's completely edentulous with no reference denture, you still need bite blocks to get the bite. And Darryl's going to go through how to use the Lumina and the bite blocks from the lab to actually show you everything that you need to create a full. So that's everything on my side. That's in a nutshell. And I did it in under 15 minutes, which is a record for me. A lot of information to take in there, but we'll if there's anything else anyone wants to know, we'll take the Q&A at the end.
Amazing.
So
Perfect.
I'll stop sharing this one, and we're back to here.
Perfect. Thank you, Neil. That's a great segue into what we're going to be going into this evening. So as Neil was showcasing, the guys have put together this fantastic kit and workflow for us to be able to demonstrate, but also practice in the practice. Now, what Neil has done as well, he's gifted me one of these sets, is what we're actually going to be going through this evening. So we're going to be taking these assets and we're going to be going through these particular workflows. It is a little bit of Blue Peter style tonight just for time. So there is, this is here one that I've made earlier. So there's going to be a little bit of that. However, what I want to do is I want to move into an introduction first to introduce the technology that we're going to be using this evening. So I'm just going to share my screen. Just let me know when you can see it, Neil.
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. And you should be able to see me in the bottom right-hand corner telling you the weather's very hot today. You got me?
Yep.
Perfect. Lovely. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going through these workflows. We're going to be looking at those 4 stages as Neil discussed. Thank you, David. So we've got that workflow 1, workflow 2, the 3, and the 4. Now I've broke the last one down into 2 stages just because I think there's a little bit more to unpack there in terms of how we're going to get that information through to the lab based on what we have in our hands at the time of after scanning. And I'll explain what I mean. So tonight we're going to be looking at the iTero Lumina. So some of you may already be existing iTero Lumina users. Some of you may be currently using the Element, and some may not have scanners, and some may be using alternative iOS solutions. Now, what we're going to be showing tonight is how to use the Lumina, especially for edentulous and partially edentulous edentate patients. So the iTero Lumina, if my slide will move forward. Sorry, I do apologize. Give me 1 second. My laptop is very, very hot, and I've had a few problems with my slides. So let me just reshare. Just give me 1 second. I do apologize. Did say if it's going to be anybody who has a technical glitch, it would be this evening, Neil, and you called it, and you was right.
We did toss the coin to see which one of us was going to be.
Amazing. So we should be back on. You should be able to see me and hear me.
Yep.
And let's see if it works now. There we go. So our first video tonight is a quick introduction into that technology, and then we're going to be going into the breakdown of those workflows.
Think your complex restorative procedures can't be simplified? Think again. Introducing the new iTero Lumina Scanner. It provides the superior accuracy and simplicity you need to achieve exceptional restorative outcomes effortlessly across all procedures, from single-unit crown bridges to implants, full arch rehabilitation, and removable prosthetics. Powered by our industry-defining iTero multi-direct capture technology, the iTero Lumina scanner lets you scan accurately twice as fast with a 3 times larger field of view for higher visualization quality with less effort, handling simple to complex cases quickly with superior clinical accuracy for high confidence in your results with a predictable first-time restoration fit. It's also designed to achieve remarkable workflow efficiency by scanning your cases in a single pass and simplified in-practice 3D printing with iTero Design Suite. Experience an all-in-one device that offers endless possibilities and give your patients a superior experience for exceptional care that helps build trust and confidence. Think you can't simplify your restorative procedures? Think again. The new iTero Lumina Intraoral Scanner, redefining simplicity with the wave of a wand.
Amazing. So I do love the drama of these videos that we do get from iTero. They do add a certain quality to some of these presentations. So I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. So what I want to do now is break that down in terms of what we just touched on in that video. So we've taken a leap, moving away from what we all know, existing technology, confocal or structured light, and we've introduced multi-direct capture. So in essence, what does that mean? It means that the wand is smaller and it's lighter, which just makes the experience for both the user and the patient much better. Now, we have got multi-angle cameras, 6 of them in the tip of that wand. We've got a 3 times larger field of view and that 25 millimeter of depth. Now, importantly, what that means is that now we're able to capture things like edentulous, extraoral, implants, chromes, anything with ease and simplicity. The technology now, as we call it, is protocol free, and we'll look at what that means tonight. So no longer is the need to follow this very strict protocol of scanning, and we'll see what those scan strategies look like. So just to recap, 25 millimeter of capture. That means we're getting down into real deep areas that we couldn't or struggled to capture before with that limited depth, with ease, but also that effortless scanning, which comes from our protocol-free scanning with the iTero Lumina. Really exciting, and it just makes it so nice to use. And once again, this will cover pretty much all of your complex cases, from your partials, your fulls, your all-on-X, full arch restorative, copy dentures, and veneers. We have a lot of white paper studies showcasing how accurate the iTero Lumina scanner is, which is comparable to photogrammetry. So when we look at that full arch scan, this is what the system delivers. Now, I want to take that and what Neil has presented at the beginning with his kit, and then I want to showcase this in terms of what that would look like for your patients and in practice. So we're going to be taking this kit tonight. So as it says on the screen, from scan kit to clinical workflow, going through each one of those stages. So once again, workflow 1 right through to 4A and 4B. So brace yourself. I'm just going to move over to my scanner. So you should be able to see my scanner screen now. Just give me a thumbs up, Neil, if you can see it. Lovely jubbly. So this is the Perfect, thank you. This is the iTero Lumina interface. Some of you may be familiar with this. For those who aren't, this is what you would see when you come into the scanner itself. And as you can see, pretty straightforward, right? New scan, history of patients. We've got our orders in there and also messages. For tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight into our orders just for time. So these are ones that I've preloaded. I've got the prescriptions ready, and we're going to be going through the scan, the workflow, and those strategies around scanning each one of these cases. So let me just open up our first scanner and go straight to the RX on this particular case. And we're going to have a quick overview of what the prescription looks like, what we can do in terms of modifications, what we can do in terms of selection. And then for the rest of those cases, once we've covered that, I'll be going straight into the scanning strategies for each one of those. So When we come into our prescription, patient first and last name, straightforward, date of birth, male, female, chart number, and then we go over here to our order details. So as you can see here, if I drop down, we've got these options from a record, keeping scan, which is our study model eye record scan, fixed restorative, which will cover anything from your crowns, your bridges, your implants, veneers, inlays, onlays, the list goes on. We have our implant planning, denture removable, which is the one that we're going to be focusing on solely tonight, and then appliance scan for things like your vacuum forms, TMJs, etc. When we go to our type, as you can see here, anything from a framework, an acrylic denture, immediate dentures, full dentures, tissue-based, those selections can be made within the prescription. We have CosTech there, so once again, selecting the laboratory, selecting CosTech. What this means is once we've completed our scan, we're going to hit that send button, and that's going to arrive with CosTech within 2 to 5 minutes, just depending on that internet connection. Now, you'll notice that there are a few or very similar kind of like terminologies that you're used to seeing in your prescriptions day to day, whether that is a digital or whether that's something that we've still got with carbon paper and we're still writing it down. Custom trays, bite rims, try-ins, everything is sort of relatively easy to follow. And then for these cases that we're going to be doing this evening, for the majority of them, we're going to be going straight to a final finish. Mold. So once again, we can give the laboratory as much information as we possibly can in terms of if there are specifics, we can then select those down here by making that selection. And also classic shades. So once again, Vita Classic, Vita 3D Master. And also if there's something specific that we wanted to go for here, we can select other, and then we can actually type it in to say it's going to be, for example, bleach shade 1. Okay, because we know that we all love those Hollywood whites. Next one would be our original pink. So this would be our gingival shade, light pink, light reddish pink, original pink, or dark pink. And then as you move down here, we've got the near-infrared imaging, which we're not going to go into too much in tonight. But once again, near-infrared imaging on your iTero Luminas will allow you to detect interproximal caries early, allowing you to have preventative treatment over, once again, that invasive treatment. So that's a lovely little feature that we have. And every single scan that we do, every single pass that we have, it will be taking those near-infrared shots. We have the denture copy scan, which we're going to be also looking at tonight. So once again, that selection to be able to add those additional scans in and what those workflows look like. And then once again, our indications, our tooth diagram below. This is allowing us to be able to set out the prescription to give the information, the lab, the exact information that they're going to need to be able to move that from that initial prescription and scan to that final fit for you. And just by selecting one of those teeth, as you can see, very basically, it's whether it's going to be missing or removed, if it's going to be classed, or if it's a standing tooth, which we deem as regular. And at the bottom here, we've got our add notes. So any additional information that you want to send over to the Neil and the team, maybe they want to have a diamond put in their central. I know that used to be a thing back when I was in the lab. I'm not too sure if it is now. But also you can see there, we've got the attachments. So everything is cloud-based with your iTero system. So you've got access to myitero.com as well. So if we wanted to maybe send through some photos, some videos, some x-rays, anything that you need or want to send or wish to send through to the lab, you can add to that prescription and that scan before sending it. So once again, having all of that information in one place, not sending a bit by WhatsApp, a bit by email, and then your scans via your iTero, everything's in one nice place for the lab to receive when it comes into their My iTero portal. Not to say that WhatsApp and email isn't sort of the best way to go, but once again, it just allows you to pull everything in that one place. But I'll let Neil tell you his preferred methods of receiving information. Because once again, each lab's different. So I've completed these this evening, and I'm just going to go straight into our scan now. So if I just, do apologize. Should be on. Everything good? We good, Neil?
It's just loading. Still see it. Just got the spinning hourglass.
Yeah, perfect. Lovely. Great stuff. So as we go into our scan mode, you'll notice that straight away we got in terms of like sleeve confirmation, just to make sure that we've got a new sleeve on. Just going to click OK, and it will go straight into scanning. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got your upper and lower jaw in this particular case, and then it will always give you those tips and hints in terms of like, if you've never scanned before, how to pick it up, how to scan. Once again, with the iTero Lumina, this is protocol free, and I'll explain what that means in a second. So once again, having a strategy in place is always good in terms of making sure things are nice and dry, making sure that we're having that full nice sweep over, not too fast, not too slow, etc. But once again, if we are scanning and maybe we lose our positioning, you don't need to keep having to re-go over those areas to find those landmarks and reference points. Now, in this particular case, for this first workflow, we're looking at I guess the simplest denture scenario. It's a partial case, so you can probably see it on my screen at the moment. So a partial case that we've got here, where the patient still has a stable bite. The key here is what we are using is the remaining dentition to give us a reliable relationship. So between the upper and lower arches, in practice, this is the case where you can scan, the scan circuitry feels like probably closest to a normal restorative scan, but with more attention around the dentular space, the soft tissue extension and the areas that the lab will use to design the partial denture frameworks or base. So first thing we do with the patient is confirm the patient can close comfortably into their normal bite position before scanning, making sure obviously everything's nice and dry, make sure that the patient's comfortable, we're not battling with any soft tissue, etc. And then once we go into that and we're sort of happy with that position, what we're going to do is we're going to go into beginning scan. Now, scan the arch, as I say, from either upper or lower. As you can see here on the screen, we've got the upper and we've got the lower selection. You would then just begin to scan, place it into the patient's mouth and begin to scan. Now, as you can see on the screen, it started to pick up some information on the patient's left-hand side. However, with our previous technology, I'd have to go back over that area to regenerate a reference point or to get it to track again what I've been scanning. However, with the iTero Lumina, what happens is that I continue to scan. It will never stop from scanning, but it will just put the information into the background. So at any point, if we're scanning the patient and maybe we have lost a little bit of tracking previously, we would have to go back over that information and we'd have to retrack to find that reference point around the data that maybe we've not picked up. But once again here, as I say, I'm literally just hovering it over, continue to scan. I just wanted it to lose itself again, and then I would stop scanning. And that would be it for my initial first lower arch scan. I would then move to my upper scan. Same principle applies. We begin to scan. And as you can see, I'm moving it around quite quickly, just trying to get it to lose that positioning. It will just continue to scan. So at any point whilst we're scanning, if we do lose our positioning, we're just going to continue around the arch until we've captured sufficient data, like so. So in this particular case, upper and lower, we've got a stable bite. As I say, this is the easiest, probably most common one that you're going to have. These are those ones where, say, single tooth, few missing teeth, and we can definitely see that we've got a nice stable bite, upper and lower arch, and then we would go to our occlusal. So once again, getting the patient into a nice occlusal position, and then we begin to scan, rocking up and down on the patient's buccal surface, and then you'll see that it will snap into position. We then move over to the opposing side, up and down, rocking that position until it snaps into position. And for all intents and purposes, that would be our scans through to CosTech. Now, at this stage, CosTech would then go to fit on this with the information that we've been provided. So those photos, the prescription information, and that next stage for this one would be that final fit. That's right, isn't it, Neil?
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Nice and easy. So I'm not going to go into each one of these and process them, send through to the lab just because of time. But all we would do here is we'd simply go into our post-process window. What this would then do is we would refine all those scans and those images that we've just taken, and it would give you that final positioning based on those scan images. Now, with the iTero Lumina, you'll probably notice on the screen at the moment, I'm going to show you this one. You can see that there's some missing areas that we've captured here. So once again, I've just hovered over very quickly over these areas. Now, what's going to happen is any data that's in the background of that scanner, so additional scans, it will actually fill those in. So what we always say, when you're scanning, if you notice that there is areas that are still missing, but you're pretty sure you probably captured them, just take them to that post-process, double check, and then you can always go back and just touch those areas up if there is any crucial data that you need to recapture. And what this will do, it will kind of stop you from potentially over-scanning and maybe spending more time on that scan that's unnecessary. So I'm just going to wait for that to populate. So with this patient, as I was saying before, it's missing one or two teeth. It's probably the most basic scan that you're going to do, as I say, not really kind of that different from your day-to-day scan. Now, as you can see on the screen, that information that was missing has now been filled in. That's not with AI. That's not been patched with artificial intelligence. That would be a scan image that's now been populated into view. So as you can see here, those scans would be perfect, ready to go through to our lab. And at this point, what we can do as well, we can check to make sure that we've got even contact on that bite using our occlusogram. Just go over to my screen. We can change it over to monochromatic and PLY. So once again, our labs love this just to make sure that we've got that nice sharp data, especially when it comes to crown and bridge. But also you have your near infrared imaging and also your your IO camera imaging as well. So as we're sort of traveling around that arch, every single one of those shots, those images are being taken, and you can actually retrieve those and see those as a static image as opposed to just that 3D generative mesh. So once again, real good, nice value piece. So I'm just going to go out to scanning on this one, and we're going to go back to our cases. And I'm going to go to our second workflow this evening. Now, this one's a little bit more complicated, just because on this one, we're going to have somebody's come in and they don't have a stable bite. However, what they do have is an existing, which we're able to use. And the one thing that we want to do here is we wanted to be able to capture that information. So once again, make sure that we can achieve that two-stage appointment. So just going to open up the ViewRx for this one. And you'll notice down here as I roll down, we've now selected the denture copy scan. Now, this is important because without this dentures copy scan, we're not going to be able to take an additional scan with the denture in situ and then take the denture out and then take a scan of the patient without the denture. So it's really important that we have that additional denture copy scan here because that's going to allow us to complete this workflow. So let me just open this up. So in this workflow, the patient is still partially a dentate, but the bite is not stable. That may be due to missing posterior support, drifting teeth, wear, mobility, or a denture that is currently maintaining the vertical dimension. This is where the reference denture, the one that we have today from CosTech, becomes useful. So we're not just scanning teeth, we're actually capturing the relationship between the patient, functioning and using the existing dentures. So this is a guide for the lab. Now, you'll notice on the screen, we've got this kind of green background. So on this green background, this is indicating that we have our pre-treatment scan, our copy denture scan, our emergence profile scan, depending on what we're scanning. Now, in this particular case, it is going to be our copy denture scan. Now, the same workflow will apply in terms of the scanning strategy and protocol. We're going to go and follow the pathway that it's going to give us. So once again, the lower, we're going to start first. We're going to begin to scan with the patient's dentures in situ, as you can see on the screen. I'm going to travel around, capture that data nice and easily. Once again, with no protocol involved. You can start on the anterior, posterior, occlusal, buccal, and we're going to stop scanning. We'll then move to the next stage, which will be our upper. So once again, green screen applies to our denture in situ. So this is now our upper copy scan, reference denture. And we're going to now scan the upper. Now for the lab, it's important to capture as much of the existing denture as possible. So once again, things like extensions, morphology, this just enables the lab to kind of see what the patient's used to. With notes and guidance, they can make those modifications and changes, but just to capture where that's seated, how it's designed, and if the patient's looking for a direct kind of copy almost of what was existing in terms of the fit, it just gives the lab that additional information to make sure that they're going to have something which they can at least try to replicate the best that they can. If you give them something like half a scan or missing data, don't expect the guys to work miracles. Now, this tends to go to the next stage of our buccal bite scan. However, what I tend to do is I'll go and I'll skip that stage for now, and I'll go to our arch scan. So once again, this is now removing the denture, and we're going to begin to scan the patient without the dentures in situ. Now, to begin scanning, I'll probably go tooth form and then move over to our free-end saddle. Same on the other side. And we would just capture sufficient amount of data. Once again, making sure that we've got those extensions. Down into the sulcus, into the lingual, like so. Don't know about you guys, but I'm getting very hot. And now we're going to move on to our upper. If I can get it off. These dentures are very tight now.
Just
a good sign.
We've had a few comments saying maybe the fit's a little bit too good.
Can never be too good. So same on the upper now. So we're going to be removing the denture out of situ, and we're going to scan the patient, capturing full palatal coverage. Never been easier. And if you've experienced this with Lumina, you'll definitely agree. It's just so easy to capture the full palatal coverage, any of those kind of deep, difficult areas to get into when we look at those adjacent contact points, but those most crucial when we're looking at the retention of those dentures as well. So what we've gone through so far is we've captured the copy dentures. We've now captured our working arches, so our upper and lower, and then I would go back to the occlusal scan. Now, the reason I like doing this workflow is just because I like to see the sort of bite snap into place. With the workflow, if you scan your dentures in situ and then go to the bite, it's just not my preferred way of doing it. But once again, there is a workflow and you can change it, you can adapt it. It is protocol free. You don't need to follow that workflow. So as you can see here, it's now captured that information. The one thing I would point out here anytime is, especially if you've got large free-end saddles or a lot of missing dentition, to continue a little bit further around to make sure that you've got sufficient information on that buccal scan so that each one of those arches aligns, one with the existing denture in place, and then one without the denture in place. Because once again, what that's looking for is that surface data to be able to match both of those scans together to give the lab both of those scans in occlusion, like so. So just go a little bit further, just make sure I've got some anatomy that side. Perfect. Now, as you can see, that's now brought ourselves into occlusion. So in this particular case, we'd have our upper and our lower. It says, I'll probably take it in the first person to see it. But our next stage from this one would be that final fit. So once again, scanning the patient with their dentures in situ for that initial denture copy scan or reference scan, and then taking the dentures out and scanning the patient without those dentures in. Taking the buccal scan left and right, and then sending that through to the lab. So at this stage here, Neil, getting this in at the lab, that next stage, you'll be taking it into your CAD software, redesigning that, using a similar morphology or bringing in a new library based on the prescription. Yep. And then that would be then that printed denture with those milled custom teeth.
Yeah. A lot of the time people say, as dentures age, they get used to the fact that they've rounded off those acrylic teeth into nice smooth edges. Now, when you know what, they just fit nice. It's just that sometimes the dentures just look old, and so they're like, I just want a refresher. This is a way we could actually take that. So what you've just scanned, we could actually take a binary copy. By doing a differential, we can then recreate an exact binary copy of the denture fully. But then also, at the same time, they can say, well, they want all the teeth refreshed. We then use the stock library using the same occlusion that's been captured.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for that. So in these particular cases, especially where you don't have that stable bite, sometimes these can be that retry, it can be that third, that fourth, just depending on the patient. So once again, this is just giving you that security of that two-stage appointment, right?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
More information. A lot of the time people will be like, oh, I've sent you these scans and these scans and these scans. That's not a problem. Actually, more information, the better.
Every time, I remember I was in a lab, it was always that, just the more information you can give me, the better it is, the easier it is for me to then obviously craft whatever it is that we're looking to craft. So 100%, that hasn't changed at all. Even with digital, more information is more. So I just wanted to kind of showcase what this would look like in terms of that occlusal, just to make sure that we can see that obviously the pre-treatment, so once again, that reference scan, the reference scan with the dentures and the one without the dentures in situ are actually stitching together, and you can see those in occlusion. And then the next stage that we're going to be looking at is how we're going to now take those fulls, which I think is the bigger puzzle piece for me anyway. Because partials, as I say, if you've got a stable bite, it's relatively straightforward. Something that you've got, as I say, with that pre-existing unstable bite, it's quite easy to get that in, replicate it, especially with this workflow. But then when we go into those fulls, that's the one that we tend to kind of see and we sort of struggle with a little bit. So as you can see here, because we've captured enough data on that buccal surface, as we've had with the dentures in situ, but also removing them, as we move through that now, the lab will have both of those arches. So once again, with the existing, without the existing, in occlusion, ready to take into their CAD software. So just by toggling that denture reference or denture copy scan, as it is in our prescription, it enables us to be able to then record that reference scan and the one without the dentures in situ. Now, just going to bob back up here. Going to go in here, and then we've got our workflow free. So once again, this for me is the bigger piece of the puzzle, right? Would you agree, Neil?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Just a quick one on workflow too. I know some people ask, they say the previous dentures, the occlusion isn't sitting right anymore. If that's the case, wax, build up the occlusion to where you want it to be and scan it with the wax in place. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Perfect. So let me just get these off the models again. Another tight fit on 4 fulls. Lovely. So going back to the prescription, we're going to be selecting full denture tissue base. Now, in this particular case, we are going to be taking scans of these dentures sort of extraorally. However, we're not going to be selecting denture copy scan in this particular instance. And the reason being is because all we're actually going to be using for this scan is these particular dentures. So there's no need to have those additional scans in this particular workflow. So with the full denture cases, especially for like denture workflow, with the reference dentures, the existing dentures become extremely valuable. It tells the lab about the current extension, tooth positions, on the tooth position on these, vertical dimensions, occlusal plane, midline, patient's current function. So in this particular case, the scan is not just about copying the denture, so to speak. It's about capturing the information that helps the lab improve as I say, reproduce what is already working clinically. So what I would say in here, what I've sort of experienced, as I say, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do this or teach them how to do this, but when you're going to be taking scans of these extraorally, we're going to be using these as your impression base. So once again, we're still going to be taking a wash impression inside of these dentures, but what this means is that we're able to scan these extraorally whilst the patient's with us, take those impressions using these dentures. No longer the use of the need of things like soapbox technique or sending the dentures to the lab to the patients without those dentures for 1 to 2 days. What we can do with these is we can take a functional impression, get them scanned, give the patient the dentures back, whilst the team at CosTech are then cobbling those new dentures together. So that next appointment is going to be that fit appointment with that new fitted surface and with those lovely new dentures for that patient. So in these particular cases, what I would say, if you've got those existing dentures, and what I would say for those who maybe come in who are edentulous and they're saying, I haven't got any dentures, there's probably some somewhere in a cupboard somewhere or in a drawer that they just refuse to wear. They've had them at some point, they've popped them in. Even if they've got them, this can still add that extra value of being able to take those impressions, as Neil was saying, get them into a bite registration or using a little bit of wax or putty, and then getting that through to the laboratory. So once again, even if they've got something that they don't wear, they never liked, it was uncomfortable, you can still use these just to be able to allow you to take these functional impressions. So using a heavy body material around the borders of the denture base, getting them to place it in, getting them to get it in place once you've got that heavy, the heavy body material around the borders of that, get them to kind of ooey, ooh, ah, kiss, getting that position in, just so you get a nice functional impression. Take that out once that's set, light body inside the denture, place it back in again. Same workflow, so we're going to go ooey, ooh, ah, kiss, get them so they've got that nice functional impression. And then once you've got that, the workflow would then be that digital. So what we're doing is we've got a denture, a wash inside it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to scan this and we're going to turn that into that digital asset. And this is where our reference denture now takes hold. So I'm going to go into our scan mode on the scanner again. So I've got the dentures, I've got the patient, I've taken those new impressions, popped them in, and now I'm happy with these to then go to that digital conversion. So let me just tap the scanner, and we're going to go into scanning our lower with our new fitting surface. You have to play a little bit of make-believe with me tonight. We're going to begin to skin these dentures now extraorally. So by that I mean grabbing hold of one, begin to scan, get a little bit of information on the screen, and then stop scanning. Now, by placing our finger on the screen for 3 seconds, you'll notice I've got the enable appliance scan. So you can see that. By tapping this, what that's going to do is now going to turn off the AI cleanup tool, meaning that whatever I scan, it is going to capture. And to a point where my kids actually use these ones to scan their toys in sometimes when I'm playing with them and I'm testing them. So we turn this off and then we'll scan like their Super Marios and their Pokemons. It will scan anything now once that's been turned off. And this is really important when we're scanning extraorally our dentures with our new reline, with that polysiloxane, that heavy body and light body. So I'm going to go back now to rescanning. I'm going to travel around the upper arch of the denture, the upper surface of the denture, sorry. Move around side, go into the buccal. And the only thing I would say here is the technique is you're going to pinch and you're going to move around the denture. You're going to pinch, move around the denture, just because if I leave my finger or thumb in place, it will scan my finger or my thumb. So as you can see here now, I've got the upper surface of that denture, and then I'm going to then rotate it round and continue to scan the fitting surface of that denture. So once again, now we would see that fresh impression material with inside the denture. And now what we're doing is we're digitizing that impression that we've taken with inside that existing. And even here, he's giving me one with some nice undercuts with that increased field of depth at 25 millimeters and our 6 cameras. Being able to pick up even the most difficult areas is relatively easy with the iTero Lumina. So once I've captured my lower denture, as you can see here on the screen, I would then move to my upper. Once again, just making sure that we've got a clean join between the upper surface and our fitting surface. We can always go back over this and recapture any areas where maybe we have a little bit that's missing. Maybe it's something that's crucial that we want to go back and we want to recapture. Now I'm going to go to my upper. Same workflow applies. And now that I've turned on the appliance scan, that will be on for the remainder of our scans. So we don't need to turn that back on again. We would then pinch and move across the dentures with our new relined impression, our impression material. And we'd scan the upper surface. Now with this, you don't need to necessarily scan the upper surface. You can start with the fitting surface. Once again, that protocol-free nature of the iTero Lumina will allow you to scan however is best for you. And now we'll just capture the fitting surface of the upper. Get nice and deep into those undercuts and that fitting area. And as I say, as we're scanning, if we notice that maybe there's a little bit of sufficient data there, we can then just roll over that border just to make sure that it's been captured. So now we've got the upper and lower denture and we've scanned them. We've taken that fresh body in. We're going to get them to place them back into their mouth to take the occlusal data. Now at this stage, if you wanted to open up the bite with a little bit of wax, maybe make those adjustments, you can do so, as Neil was saying. But we get them to place them in, get them to bite together in their natural centric position. And just as we did before, place it in down the side of the cheek, get into that buccal positioning, and then we begin to scan. So just rocking up and down until we see that snap. Then back over to the opposing side, same again. So we see that snap. And now what we've done is we've recorded our upper and lower with our new impression material ready to send through to the lab. So at this stage now, Neil, you've received these in the lab. What would we see happening in the lab from these initial scans?
So what we do is we actually bring this into ExoCAD, and we mark that it is, they still call it a reference scan. And so we take the fit surface and then we invert it. So now, essentially, we've now got a digital model actually in the bite. So even though there's no contact, there's no teeth or anything, we've got virtual articulators. So we can then design everything on this virtual articulator. And if the prescription says, okay, with this, actually raise it by another millimeter or so, we can then do that on the CAD software as well. When we first did it, it felt very, very weird because it's like, okay, so we're doing it like soapbox. No, we're just taking the inversion of it to create the impression. And it's a brilliant technique because it saves the time of having to get a special tray made and then going back to basics and getting the putty out again, getting the alginate out. It's majority of people, when they're at this stage where they're edentulous, majority of people have some sort of denture. We have had some people who they've got their last remaining, it's always got their canines left and that's it, and the canines have to come out, and now they're going for a full clearance. Even with that, we can digitally remove those canines using those existing dentures and still doing as good a reline as you can do. A re-imp inside those dentures. Sometimes you might have to, because when it comes out the front, you end up with a lot of putty coming out where it doesn't need to be. You might just need to get a scalpel and just clean it up a little bit, and then we'll actually digitally do the extractions.
Amazing. So from this particular workflow for you, analog, how many appointments would you probably see if you was to say get somebody with an existing?
It's two appointments.
Yeah, but I mean, if you wasn't digital, what would we be looking
at? If it wasn't, usually people do. Technically, it should be a special tray and then a bite block, but special tray and bite, try-in, it was 30-40% is a retry as well, and then going for the finish. So yeah, averaging at least like 4 appointments. 2 weeks between appointments, 8 weeks. Time's precious.
Absolutely. So I think here what we're looking at is obviously this applies when the existing dentures is usable as a reference. As I was saying before, it is a reference denture workflow. So what we're looking for is that reference technique. So it's never going to be, like I say, a direct copy, because there may be some changes that may influence the final outcome. But it's kind of even if the new denture is being improved, the key message is that the denture itself, it carries valuable clinical information that can be transferred in the digital workflow, right?
Exactly.
That's the main thing. So for a full arch case, this existing denture that we have here today is often the most useful reference the patient has. It can show tooth position, once again, the occlusal plane, vertical dimensions, extensions, functional information. And the scan is not just of the mouth, it's also capturing like the prosthetic information in certain situations that the lab needs to reproduce, refine, or improve that new denture. So this is what it's about. It's about that improvement.
And also, a lot of people saying, well, can you just scan the soft tissue? Well, if they're edentulous, if that soft tissue moves during the scanning as well, you've actually got a static reference to scan rather than attempting to scan the soft tissue, which you can do, but this is a better technique.
Yeah, agreed. So for our final two, as I say, our final one, I'm going to split it into two, an A and a B. We're now going to go into what is probably the holy grail, the most complicated case. So a patient comes along, losing her dentures. I think I saw it just pop up very quickly. This is what we're going to be looking at. So once again, we've got somebody who's a full wearer. They lose the dentures. We don't have anything to be able to use it as that reference technique that we saw before. How do we get around that? And how do we simplify those workflows? And how do we reduce that chair time and reduce those appointments? So this is what we're now going to move into. So I'm going to go into our workflow 4, which is our no existing denture. Now, you'll notice here that we're not going to be selecting denture copy scan, because all we're going to be doing today is we're just going to be scanning the upper and lower. We're not even going to be taking the occlusal scan at this stage. So once again, this would just be upper and lower scans of the edentulous arch, and we'll be sending them through to Neil. And then part B is what we would do next with it, which is kind of like the magic, so to speak. So let's just go to scan. We're going to do denture removable. We're going to do full denture tissue based. This stage, I would probably say that we're going to be going to you can either put bite rim or try-in. What would you prefer, Neil?
Bite rim.
Bite rim? Yep.
Yeah.
And we'd select the upper and lower denture. So once again, if it is a full, selecting the upper and lower denture, and then we go to scan. Now, once again, if the patient has lost them, the beauty of digital as well is that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, you normally tend to keep your designs on file for a year. So
Yeah.
if you've designed and you've manufactured, and there is somebody, it could be somebody in a hospital, a care home, your domiciliaries, they lose those dentures.
Yeah.
Neil and the team within that year can simply just go, right, remanufacture, reprint, get the teeth milled, and then you've got an exact replica of what was presented 6 months ago, 3 months ago, prior to. So you've got that reassurance that once again, if let's say Doris does go and lose her teeth, I don't know why Doris, just not right. Doris does go and lose her teeth, we can replicate that very easily with a click of a button, which is a real nice to have. So once again, you're not having to go back to those kind of impression stages, rescanning that. This team will have them on file for you. Just make sure she doesn't lose them within, I think, after a year, because then poor old Doris, she will have to be rescanned. So with our workflow now, I mean, the main thing here is that it's probably the most technique sensitive workflow, because we don't have a reference denture to guide us. So the first objective is to capture the soft tissue anatomy clearly and consistently. Now, this has somewhat been a challenge prior to the Lumina, I'll just say. It is achievable and it is successful, but I would say it's very technique driven, and it can be more of a technique driven scan. So once again, it's kind of kit gloves. Now with the Lumina, there's a few things that you need to apply. So once again, nice and dry, tissue management and tongue management. But once again, being able to capture this with the Lumina based on the field of view and the depth of capture is so much easier and so much more precise with those few kind of rules to follow. So I'm going to split this, as I said before, into two stages. Stage one is going to be the tissue scan. This focus here is around tissue management, moisture control, scanning strategy. I sort of use, it is protocol free, and making sure that we capture the landmarks that the lab needs before we introduce those hard bite, those spaces and bite blocks. Because once again, an insufficient scan at this stage can be crucial to maximum extension, making sure we're hitting those retromolar areas. So it's really key to make sure that we capture that information at this stage as best we can, so that the lab can then manufacture something with a hard base and a bite block for us to then convert that into what we're going to see as a digital workflow. Anything that you would add here, Neil, based on your experience before I move on to scan?
Like I said, previously the biggest issue was the previous generations of scanners. Scanning soft tissue is very difficult because there's no reference point. It's all smooth. You just the technology can't triangulate. But as I understand, the Lumina, it's more accurate. In even if it is smooth, it will find a reference point somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was saying before, I think that the key steps here is about dry the field where possible, control your saliva, and avoid kind of over retraction, because once again, the soft tissue should be captured in a natural, undistorted position. So what I would say there are some kind of tips and tricks in terms of being able to keep that out of sort of situation. So when we're scanning, we're not capturing something which is going to interfere once again with the overall fit of that initial scan that we're going to be doing. So what I would do always is start from, as you can see on the screen, that anterior ridge, especially if we've got a nice sort of prominent bony ridge. Even if it's flat, you can still start in these positions, and you can see on the screen, it's going to give us those tips and guidance. So I'm going to begin to scan now. So starting on the anterior section, and we're going to slowly move over to the posterior. And as I say, even if it loses its positioning, and it is a more technical scan, so it will, as you're scanning around, probably lose its positioning, stop to scan, You just continue to scan, just making slow movements, nice and steady. And this applies for those who have got prominent ridges and those who have got more resort ridges. It's a little bit lifeless. We've left landmarks and reference points. But you can see here, just capturing that data, nice and steady. Now, the one thing that I would say in practice, I'm scanning a model this evening, but I've done a lot of clinical days where we've been scanning patients live, is I always like to turn on, I'm going to touch my other screen, I always like to turn on the monochromatic view when I'm scanning for a dentulous, because this is going to give you a much better understanding of what's been captured and what's been scanned, as opposed to even with the PLY, and you can see that you've got that tissue color. The monochromatic will definitely give you, especially for these cases, a better view of what's been captured. So what I would say, if you are scanning for a dentulous, just pop that monochromatic view on, which is just over here with the click of a button. And then that will just change that over. Once again, trust me, it really helps when you're capturing. Now, the one thing I would say, and I wanted to highlight it for this particular scan as well, is at any time if we say scan the arch, but we're not happy with a particular area, what I don't want you to do is to go back in and just continuously scan over an area over and over again, trying to rectify it or correct it. We have a tool on the iTero down here in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's called our prep editing tool. Now, this applies pretty much to every scenario when we're wanting to make these modifications. So, for example, if there's an area that we do want to redefine, we're going to then click it. So at the minute I'm clicking it, I would tap it, and then I would simply just highlight the areas that maybe I want to redefine. So what this means now, it's going to lock out the areas that we're happy with. So once again, we don't want to interfere with. We can see that we've got really good capture. I just want to make that fine adjustment, that fine tune, that small area, because I can see maybe I have got a little bit of saliva, I've got a little bit of tissue collapse, and I want to bring that in. I want to make sure that I've got a nice, clear scan there. We highlight it, we tap rescan. And now what the system's going to do, it's going to cut out the area that I want to rescan. And as I begin to rescan, you'll notice now, once it's found its position, it will highlight it in red. But all that surrounding area that's now been locked out is going to be untouched from that initial secondary scan that we've just taken. Really important when we're trying to manage these, because once again, by over scanning, you'll end up fighting with yourself. So this just gives you that control. So if there is just a particular area that we need to go back and rescan, it's very easy to do so just by using that tool. And the reason I highlight that is because I've seen it so many times. People really struggle with that. And it's just a great tool to use in those particular cases, especially for your crown and bridge, especially for your denture work, and pretty much your day-to-day scanning. Lock out the good, rescan the bad. Never said that before. That sounded really good, though. Quite like that. I'm going to use it again.
Trademark it.
Yeah, 100%. I'll get on it now. So that would be our lower arch, and then we go over to our upper. How am I doing for time, Neil? What time is it? 7:30. Lovely. Okay. So, and we're now going to do our upper arch. So same thing applies, I say, start in the anterior section, nice and prominent, making sure, obviously, once again, we've got soft tissue management, as I appreciate. It's quite easy for me this evening on these models. Next time, Neil, if you've got anybody that you can send over to my house, I'll strap them down and we can do this live. Once again, with something signed, just to make sure that they're happy. What I can do. Yeah, 100%, mate, yeah, 100%. But once again, capturing full palatal coverage, down into those sulcuses. Once again, we'd use our fingers, tools to be able to retract away just to make sure that we're getting right down into there and being able to capture that information for the lab to create you initially, once again, that hard base for those bite blocks. And the reason for is that this one, as good as it is never going to compress that tissue, and the functional impression will obviously always supersede that and give you a better result in the end. But what we want to do is we want to digitize that impression. So this would then go through to the lab, and I'll sort of hand it over to Neil now to explain what would happen next while I go into my next scan.
So what we do is once we have that, we can make the hard base. We relieve it a little bit, so we offset it just enough so you can get a good putty impression in there. We raise up the bite blocks as you traditionally would, and then the same workflow how you would use a normal bite block, looking for the center line, lip lines, and the canine. mark all of that as you would normally. That's all the information. All of that information will be picked up by the scanner. You don't need to send those bite blocks back to the lab. Just keep hold of them, and then once we have that digital scan of the bite blocks, we can actually then go straight for a finish.
Amazing. That's great. And I love it, man. I mean, as I said, I was a dental technician and I saw those struggles when I was in the lab, and it was before all digital, it was before COVID, and we were really kind of like trying to push those boundaries. And I remember all these workflows, and we were trying to come up with unique ways to be able to kind of like simplify things and kind of get that information across. And then all of a sudden we have this now. I'm no longer in the lab, but I'm like, God, I would have loved this when I was in the lab. This would have just made my life so much easier. So when I see this and I see these workflows, I'm just like going, guys, you've got it so easy. You don't even know. So no, but that's amazing, right? So we've taken that upper and lower arch scan. Once again, just making sure that we're getting those extensions, we're getting information to the lab that they're going to need to be able to create these hard bases. Now, Neil and the team will then create some hard bases. It will give you your wax bite blocks, just like you're used to. And this is what I've got here tonight. I appreciate I'm probably quite small, but you're going to be able to see it on my screen in a second. And I've used some blue tack to put these together, just in case you're wondering what that is. But once again, being able to use, once again, the wax, or alternatively using a wash inside of those. So once again, a little bit of mousse to be able to open up and position, just your normal workflow as you would expect to use your bite blocks. At this stage, there's not really much that's different. However, what we're going to be doing, going back to that reference denture scan, we're now going to be taking what we learned from there and applying it to this. So we're going to apply it to this. So we're still going to be taking those impressions inside of our hard bases, as I said before. So once again, that heavy body around the peripheries of borders, get them in, get that functional movement, get that to set, take it out, right body inside, reposition it back in again, let that set, functional movement, okay? Both on the upper and lower. Now, once we've got those new relines inside of there, so once again, that new impressions that we've got inside of our bite blocks, we're then going to get them into the patients now. Once again, depending on if you've got the occlusal positioning before or after, we're going to get them in, we're going to get them in position. So once again, now what we've actually got is those two bite blocks stuck together, as you can see here, center lines, canine lines, smile lines, just as you normally would. And we've got those impressions in both of those now. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to scan this 360 after we've done all of that work, and then we're going to send it over to Neil and the team. So once again, this is why I've called this a workflow for A and B, because we're going to be scanning the edentulous surface. We're going to get that through to the lab. The lab then are going to then create as those hard bases of those bite blocks. They're going to be then received in your practice. You're going to use your usual techniques of creating, once again, that centric position, taking those bite blocks into that occlusion for the patient. And then we're going to be making sure that we get those fresh impressions through to the lab and digitizing all of that now. So we're going to digitize what we're used to with those analogs. So let's move on. Here, I'm not going to do anything special. Still a tissue-based denture. We're going to go to final finish. I'm not doing a denture copy scan, and I'm just going to click scan. So once again, there's no denture copy scan, reference scan, and there's all this different terminology that we have in different prescriptions, reference scan for the team here at CosTech. And we're now going to scan this 360 with those new impressions, sealed together, smile lines. Once again, anything that we want to record on the bite block, we can do so. Slightly opened, using your mousses, using additional wax. This then will be scanned 360. Now, same thing applies. However, you can select upper or lower. So you can go upper or lower on these. I'm going to go upper because I fancy upper today. And we're now going to begin scanning just as we did before. So as I begin to scan, what I want to do is I'm just going to get some information on the screen. As we saw with our reference dentures, placing my finger on the screen for 3 seconds, and then I'm going to go to enable appliance scan. So as we heard before, this is now going to turn off that AI cleanup tool. Anything that I scan is now going to be picked up on the scanner. I am going to move over to monochromatic just because, once again, these models, they're sort of, what color would you say these are? Kind of like a peach color. Is that what we're going for? Peach? Yeah, I can't hear you, muted, but I think you did say peach.
Peachy orange, kind of.
Peachy orange, yeah. So we're going to go to that monochromatic view just so you see what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to scan. So starting on the fitting surface, so this would be a new impression inside of that hard base. We're then going to roll over to the local surface of those bite blocks. Going to continue round. And as you can see here, it's going to move over a little bit further just so it loses that positioning. I'm going to roll back over again. and then you'll notice what it'll do. It'll then put it back into view again. So even if, let's say, for example, I'd captured that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to move around. I'm going to go over to my lower. You can then begin to capture in the lower surface. So once again, that impression surface, that new impression that we've captured, continue to scan, highlight again, throw to call free. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to roll around onto that buccal surface. And then once it's happy, and it's found its positioning, it will then bring in that image at the bottom. So I'm just losing my fingers now. I think it's the sweat. There we go. And it's now put them in view. Now, at any time, if I just want to review what I've captured, I can just pull the wand away. That's all I'm doing at the minute. I'm still scanning. You probably see my hand. I'm still scanning at the moment. But what I can do is I can just review to make sure what I've got and what I need has now been captured, ready to be sent through to the laboratory. Now, at any point, I can go back to it. So we can have a quick look here. You can say, actually, I just need to capture a little bit more on that buccal surface there, maybe roll over onto that posterior border, recapture it back in again, and it will just refine itself and pick itself back up. So at any time, if you want to go back and refine those scans, maybe you can use a little bit of missing data, maybe we're wanting to just maybe get that little bit of a posterior border in there a little bit better, we can just have a look at it, review it, go back to any area. I'm just showing you any area and just go back to that rescan. System is so smart and clever. It will just wait until it finds exactly what you're scanning and it will bring it back into view, ready to send through to the lab. So what I would say here, I think Neil sort of brought this up at the beginning when he was talking. With your intraoral scanners now, it's not just our dentists and our associates who are scanning, it's our TCOs, it's our nurses. And the one thing that the iTero Lumina really delivers is this really efficient, simple workflow for scanning. There isn't this need now to kind of have additional training. You need to, once again, with our older technology, a terminal position, in contact with the tooth, sweep them around onto the arch, onto the contralateral, down into the lingual, buccal midline. It's pretty much get out of the scanner, begin scanning the patient, making sure they're nice and dry, and you're managing that soft tissue. My 7-year-old can do it with very little guidance for himself, scanning his mouth, and also his toys at home. So if he can do it, the way I see it is pretty much anybody should be able to pick one of these things up and learn how to scan very quickly. Now, I'm going to hand it back over to Neil now, just to say, look, we've taken those fresh impressions inside of those hard bases and those bite blocks. What would that mean now in terms of that next stage or that next appointment?
Straight away, once we've got that scan, you do not need to send those bite blocks through the post. Again, it saves the problem. Sometimes we receive bite blocks and in transit, they've dislodged or shifted or worse, they've squashed. And you've got to do it again. By having it digitally, you can see exactly what we're having. And then we can actually check it almost immediately. If you want us to check that, all right, I've just scanned it, can you have a quick look at it? The technicians are on hand to say, yep, let's just have a quick look at that. Yeah, all good, Mrs. Johnson can go home. That's it.
Perfect.
And once we've got that, then same process as before, we invert it in the virtual articulator, and then we start the design. Amazing.
So once again, simplifying that, a dentulous, partially a dentate workflow. And I think just the last one for this one, really, it's this stage kind of shows how digital dentures can still use familiar clinical principles that we're used to. We're not replacing good denture records. We're digitizing them, which is the key thing here. We're not replacing them, we're digitizing them. So the lab receives the soft tissue scan, the functional impression data, and the recorded bite relationship. Excuse me. I've been holding that back for the last hour. I do apologize. And recorded bite relationship instruction, digital workflow. I'm going to continue. So the second stage completes the clinical record once the doctor has recorded the bite position. So it's taking the functional impression inside the heart bases or existing dentures, and then we scan the bite block 360 degrees so that the lab receives the tissue detail, border extension, rim information, and jaw relationship. So the message is that the digital dentures still rely on a good prosthetic principle. This is the thing here. We're not skipping, we're not cutting corners, and what you will get is an extremely good fit off these dentures, but you're saving yourself so much chair time. So once again, the scanner is digitizing that record, not replacing the clinical steps, just simplifying it and giving you more time maybe to do what you love, or alternatively see more patients. So that's it from the scanning side of it, Neil. Let me just click yes here. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. I'm just going to reopen my deck.
Fantastic. Well done. Your laptop made it in the heat.
Yeah, I know. Woo. So one thing I just wanted to highlight, just reshare my screen now. We do have an offer on tonight for anybody who is looking to potentially upgrade to their, latest technology. Anything that you've seen tonight, you think, God, I would love to have that in my practice and start applying that tomorrow. You can reach out to us, reach out to Neil, reach out to the team, and we have this really exclusive price on just for this webinar this evening. So once again, that's at 19,000 plus VAT, and it can come as a cart unit or a mobile unit. Everything that you've seen here tonight is what would be delivered. Plus, you get obviously training and support with that purchase, and we do have a finance as well available. So once again, if you're looking to finance that purchase, so you can see here, it does start from that 465. You can scan cobalt chromium dentures as well. I just saw the question come up. So once again, this will scan anything from your metals, your partial frameworks. If you want to have a demo in your clinic, there's something more specific, because once again, we've only got an hour and a half here tonight, something more specific that you want to see, just give us a quick shout. We can come out to your practices and we can give you those demos. We can go through these workflows with you. We've got a team which is spread across the whole of the UK and Ireland, and they would be more than happy to come out and give you a little bit more of a hands-on approach with the technology from this session this evening. Did you want to just share your screen for a second, Neil, just to talk about?
I've completely lost it.
Do you want me to just move on then?
Yeah.
Do you want me to, yeah.
Have you got it?
Yeah, you'll see. Yeah, I've got it. So you see me now. Hi, guys. Yeah. So also with tonight, yeah, I'll let you take it, Neil.
So as a thank you for joining us this evening. CosTech is also, anyone who goes on and buys the Lumina with Darryl, will actually put £500 worth of lab credit onto your account to get you going, and looking forward to working with you. So I've just seen the time. We crammed in a lot there, but we've got 13 minutes to get through the Q&As. Ashok, is there any, you can just throw up any that you want us answering quickly? I'm just having a look. One from Sophie. Did you recommend heavy body, light body impressions when taking the impression during using the denture?
Heavy body for the border, and then light body for the additional secondary stage of that impression. So normally heavy body around the border, and then a light body and the secondary stage of that impression. That two-stage impression technique. Yeah.
Patient's got a very poor lower ridge. I think, that's basically workflow for just dry the ginger as much as possible and scan the best you can, and then we'll create a new bite block from there.
I think there's one from here from Sarita as well. It says here, are you sending it to myitero.com first to upload pictures, videos, and then send it onto the lab? So what that workflow would be, the cloud-based solution will allow you to either set up your prescription on myitero.com or on the scanner, and before you send it to the lab from your scanner, you can then go to myitero.com and you can add those attachments in. So once again, before you send it, grab those attachments, your photos, your videos, via myitero.com, so not on your scanner, add them in, and then once you've got all those assets within the prescription, click send on your scanner, and all that information will send through to the lab, and they will receive it in their myitero.com.
Brilliant. Just getting through. Thank you, Ashok, for answering these. A lot of these questions will actually put it to accompany this video as well. Okay. Do I need to buy an iTero to get the 500? At the moment, this is the offer that is working with iTero, the £500. There's no other offers that we're actually running at the moment, but sign up to the e-shots and the newsletter. Anything that does come up for any offers that we promote will be there. So with the with this, it's saying doing the try-in. You don't actually do a try-in ever. If you want to do a try-in, like for example, you've got a patient who is very tricky, and you think actually creating that good centric bite is going to be a problem. Rather than us manufacturing a full denture, we can actually produce a try-in denture, where it's a very low cost resin. It's just all color. It's the same color as the peachy orange material, but it's fine to use as a try-in. And the patient can try in, feel it. If the bite is a bit wrong, you can easily adjust the material. If the fit isn't good, again, you can use the same heavy and light body to do it, to take an impression. And then again, same protocol, you scan it. So we don't do a try-in in the traditional sense. We don't need to, because it's so accurate, recreating the bite in the CAD software with the scanner. So some people do say, okay, I really want an old traditional try-in. I wax with the teeth. Just put it on the RX and request it. That's not a problem as well. Perfect. Okay, 9 minutes left. Darryl, we did it. We thought we were going to be way over. So many thanks for that. Any last words, Darryl?
Bon voyage. No, if anybody needs any support, anything that you've seen tonight, and as I said before, you want that in practice demo, you can reach out to us and the team. What I'll do in the chat as well, just for anybody who does want to reach out, you can reach out to me on this number here, WhatsApp, give me a quick call, and I can follow up with you if there's any sort of questions. Thank you as well, just putting on the my email address. We've got Abby as well. So Abby Cooper is in the call this evening, one of our iTero digital platform territory managers, and she's been quite helpful in the background answering some of those questions. So I just want a big shout out to Abby. But once again, she just popped in a couple of email addresses there. And if you wanted to reach out, just drop us a quick message. Obviously, we'll do some follow-ups as well, just to make sure that everybody was happy with the content. But like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure to do this with you tonight, Neil. I really enjoyed it. Even with my very, very sweaty body. We won't go into too many details, but it's been an absolute pleasure. And I just thank everybody for taking that time this evening to not sit in the beer garden, but actually come and listen to us talk about digital dentures and obviously the efficiencies that we can apply to those as well. So thank you ever so much to everybody for taking that time on this very hot evening.
Yeah, again, thank you very much, everyone. So tomorrow, everyone will receive an email tomorrow. We'll just do a summary. There'll be some links on there. What we'll do is the link for the video will also be up, so if you want to share it with your colleagues. But also everything that you need to onboard with CosTech, the sign up, if you have got a scanner already, how to link up your scanner, price list, and the links to some of the videos. I saw one coming through more details about Digi-Dentures and also the difference in the different types of Digi-Denture. We've done a previous webinar on that, so I'll send the link through. And yeah, any offers will be added on there. So thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate you taking your time out to join us, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Hopefully it will get a little bit cooler. If not, get a wet towel, wrap it around your head and do the best you can.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Cool.
Yeah,
all right. I'm going to end the event. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks again. Enjoy your evening, everybody.
You
Bye
take
now.
care. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.